Hello and welcome to our new Love Island podcast, Cracking On With The Sun. I'm Amanda Devlin, Assistant Showbiz Editor, and I'm joined by our co-host, Felicity Cross.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Deputy TV Editor for The Sun, and today we have with us a guest.
Yes, I am the Sun's Associate Showbiz Editor, Oliver Grady, fresh from the villa.
You are
From one to your kind of villa-esque abode.
our very own bombshell.
Yes, well,
arriving
I like
looking
to think so.
very glam and lovely. But you've been over in South Africa and you've
Yes.
been in Cape Town checking out the villa for us.
Yeah.
Tell us all about it.
I know, I had a bit of a whirlwind visit to South Africa 3 days last week. Bit of a culture shock arriving back to -2 degrees, but there we go. Yeah, the villa, I mean, everyone says this, but it does feel a lot bigger when you're in there than you imagine. I always, you've been on TV sets before in our jobs and, everything always feels smaller than it does on TV, but it feels big budget. It feels like it's had a bit of a glow up. Lots of little tweaks to the villa that they've made.
I've got a question.
Yeah.
How close together are the beds?
They're pretty close. I actually found I mean, you can feel, you feel like you could feel people's breath on you.
What I really
when you're
mean
in
is,
bed.
if you really fancied someone,
Yeah.
would you get down to it, given how close the people next
I mean,
door
I
are?
wouldn't, but I wouldn't ever be in there in the first place. So, but there isn't much room for privacy. Put it that way.
Okay.
They're close. Yeah.
So talk to us about the Hideaway, because that's where the privacy does come in.
Yeah. So the Hideaway. What's different about the villa in South Africa, which I didn't realise, because when you're on TV, you don't quite get the layout in your head properly. But the Hideaway is actually away from the main villa in South Africa. So in Mallorca, it's kind of part of the villa. But you kind of have to go out of the garden, kind of across a little walkway, down a little path. So there is much more privacy.
They
It's
can
like
be
a
as
mini
loud.
rave.
They can be as
Yeah.
loud as they want.
They can be as loud as they want. It's had a bit of a extra. They've sort of made a secret garden off it this time, so they can kind of go in, have a little date in the secret garden, which is all kind of a walled garden, very private. And then they've got the sexy new kind of Miami vibes Hideaway, which does have that kind of boutique hotel sexy vibe. But will the privacy continue, because they have got that pull-down bed in there? So
Tell us about this.
yeah, so Mike Spencer, who's kind of the creative director of Love Island and the kind of head honcho of it all, he said, he was kind of teasing us, but he said, we have got an extra bed in here, make of that what you will. I think the plan is maybe that it will be brought in as a way to spice things up, to bring, because I said, are we going to have like a throuple?
Are we throupling?
Yeah, we're throupling. Are we having two couples in here?
I'm so excited.
I think all options are on the table for Love Island. All bets are off.
Oh,
I think
my
what they're
God.
probably going to do, it might be a way, like, imagine a couple are like really into each other. They've got this, like, finally get this night in the Hideaway, and then will they find that they will wake up in the morning and their ex is in the other bed? I think it's going to be maybe a way to bring in bombshells in a kind of unexpected way.
Oh my God, Ollie, that's blown my mind.
I know. I mean, that's from what I was kind of reading between the lines. He was like, there are lots, because there's obviously no Castro Moore this year. So they've got to find really new, fresh ways to bring in unexpected arrivals. And I think somebody turning up in a bed. So there's also the 4 single beds in the living room as well, which they've never had before. These pull-down beds seem to be the theme of surprises this year. So he said, could that be a way to introduce people? I'll let you decide that.
And maybe it's an option sort of for all the fallouts, because they maybe are expecting there to be a lot more rows, bust-ups this time round, because they have the history of sort of knowing each other on the circuit, as we were talking about in episode 1.
So there are places for people to kind of escape and spread out from each other and bitch about each other and all that kind of jazz.
Yeah. Did you feel as though you were stepping into it being a real all-stars, a real celebrity feel to it? Has the villa has it become a bit more glam, a bit more show-busy, because you've got these well-known people going in?
I think it's definitely they described it as it's had a bit of a glow-up. So, they've put all the kind of famous catchphrases from over the years have kind of been stenciled around the villa. I'm loyal babes and all that kind of stuff. They've got the bedroom has had a bit of a gold member makeover, so it's kind of got that Midas touch now. It's kind of they've gone for the bit more of a celeb vibe, I think, in terms of how. And I said, it feels like this. I said to Mike, this feels like a room for a diva. And he said, oh, they're all divas. We're here. We're ready to embrace it. We've got divas with us. You know, these are all stars. And this is going to be, I think he's hoping for a bit of a diva-tastic season. So.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
And of course, when you were there, you met the ultimate queen of the divas, Maya.
Miss Maya Jama, yeah.
How was that?
She was really, really lovely. I mean, I'd heard from people that had met her in previous seasons how kind of down to earth she is, but I was like, is she still going to be like that? Because, you know, this is now the Vogue cover girl. She's a D&G ambassador. She's been on billboards in Times Square. So, you know, is she going to have changed? But she's super down to earth. She came in, she gave us all hugs. She smelled amazing. She had a beautiful kind of white dress on with kind of a bit of a floral kind of thing going on the shoulder. And yeah, she was just really down to earth, you know, had no shoes on because you all have to take your shoes off in the villa, obviously, so you can't mess up any of the carpets.
Did you
whatnot.
have to put those blue, you know, the shoe covers on?
I actually went completely shoeless and just, yeah, I didn't go.
You
for
really
the
made
blue.
yourself at
yeah,
home.
I really made myself
Love
at
that.
home.
I was going to say Maya Jama, white dress, blue
I
plastic
know
shoe
it's
cover.
not exactly it's not exactly the look, is it? You know,
No.
she has all the team out there with her, making sure she looks spot on. But
So
yeah.
she's really breathtaking in real life, seeing
she's
her.
stunning. Yeah, she's really stunning girl, and yeah, I've not really washed since I had that hug. So
Sorry. Oh my gosh. So everything's ready for the Islanders.
Yes, and we've been kind of been talking about who's going in. We know now that the full lineup, and we've got loads of big names rumoured for the bombshells later in the series. But we've spoken to some Islanders this week in preparation for the launch night. So can you give us any juicy gossip?
Yeah, absolutely. So we've both spoken to all of the Islanders.
Yeah.
My favourite, I've always had a soft spot for her, but again, it's just so refreshing to see, despite everything she's gone through, still an absolute babe, Demi Jones. So she's had her thyroid cancer battle, but so down to earth. The first thing that she said to me, I said, Demi, bikini right after Christmas. Talk to me. And she said, oh my God, the pigs and blankets, it was a nightmare. I had to say no chocolates, but she's been on this big weight loss journey after her thyroid cancer. And I think she just seems like she's in a really good place going in. So really nice to hear from her, I think.
I absolutely loved Demi. She was the first chat that I did, and I just thought she brought such good energy.
Yeah.
You know, she really kind of seemed excited to be going in. She was just, positive. And after everything she's been through, I think she said, like, you know, I fought for my life. You know, anything that the Love Island All-Stars villa can throw at me is kind of small fry in comparison. So I think she's got the best attitude going in, and I really hope she finds someone. So she was one of my favourites too. And I think probably Anton was my most favourite out of all of them, because he's such a lovely guy. He was really candid. He was happy to talk about, you know, things that had happened to his, you know, he looked a bit different, didn't he, about a year ago, and he was getting a lot of trolling about his face, so we talked all about that.
Yeah.
I also told him, so when I was doing the villa tour, Maya admitted that she was a bit obsessed with Anton. I was like, is there anyone you were starstruck by, maybe when you were a viewer before you were the host? And she said, I was like obsessed with Anton. I thought he was such a pure soul. She loved the Craig David moment. So when I was interviewing him, I said, oh, a little birdie tells me Maya was a bit obsessed with you. And he was like, you could tell this grin on his face. I was like, did she say that? Did she say that? So yeah, he was just such a babe. I really liked him.
Oh.
It's funny you mentioned those two, because I feel quite protective of them both. Demi, especially, there's something about her. You're right, it's an energy that she's got. When I've met her before and interviewed her, she's such a kind person. She gives you loads of time. She's really funny, charismatic. But there's something quite vulnerable about her, I think. And I don't know why I feel like that, but there's maybe because she had quite a rough time in the villa initially, didn't she?
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see if she gets a good reception with these guys going in, because she seemed to be really unlucky in love last time.
Yeah.
Do you see her with anyone in mind? Is there someone that you're thinking, oh, they'd be quite a good match?
Oh God.
They all want Ovi, don't they? I
They
think that
all
was
want Ovi.
I was like 4 McHugh ladies. I think.
Yeah.
Don't we all?
They all seem
Don't
to
we
want Ovi. It's an interesting one with
Maybe
her.
Mitch, because of the same.
No. I have
You
to
wouldn't-
stop
you'd say
you
absolutely
right
no,
I want
there.
a detective from Mitch. I mean,
Yeah.
everyone deserves a second chance, but I feel
no.
like definitely don't want her with Mitch.
Look, I'm not going to mince my words here. I was just thinking that the one Islander that I came off the call and thought, I'm not quite sure about this casting and him being given a second chance, as it were. One of those was Mitch. So obviously after his series, which was a little bit chaotic, let's face it, he didn't
messy, very messy,
to borrow his phrase. He didn't exactly treat people brilliantly. It didn't really feel like he's learned any lessons from those days. So when we were asking him, you know, are we going to have any more ex-girlfriends come out on sort of your behaviour since you left the villa? Because obviously his series, there were lots of girls that had things to say about him. You know, did he perhaps want to talk about the row that he had at the Showbiz party? So this was the Space NK bash, where various claims came out about the way that he treated a homeless person and all that kind of thing, which you can read all about on our website for more info. He just sort of said, I've learnt my lesson and it's great that I'm going to be back and I've got that same big dog energy and, you know, it's a whole new group of girls for me to go at. And I thought...
It's a bit toxic masculinity, isn't it?
You're not this big dog. And I think Amanda and I said when we spoke last time, he's got this kind of I'm the big guy in Sheffield vibe, but you're in there with these bloody stunning women who are just going to have none of this. Hannah Elizabeth is just going to laugh him out.
She'd eat him for breakfast. Yeah, absolutely.
That's what I'm excited about to see, though, is him like maybe a bit of a reality check in that way, where he goes in all guns blazing again, hasn't learned his lesson, and then he soon finds out. Yeah,
I had a bit of a similar vibe as well while we're in the topic of full disclosure. Jake Cornish kind of left the same taste in my mouth. I felt like he was quite defensive. He didn't really take a lot of accountability for his behaviour the first time around. And to me, like, you know, he kind of still was blaming the edit all these years later. And I'm like, I appreciate these shows are edited and we don't see 24 hours a day, of course.
Oh, but, my goodness, I can't hear that any more times.
Exactly.
Every single interview they say that. It's like, yeah, we get it. We understand it. But you've said those things.
Words weren't edited into your mouth. This isn't
drives me
spliced
mad.
together.
Yeah.
And I said to him, you know, you've got to still take accountability, you know. And he sort of then backtracked a bit and he said, oh, you know, well, nobody's perfect. And I'd never even heard of gaslighting before I went into the house. Almost like it was a made-up thing that people just used to kind of make headlines. But, you know, so I didn't really feel like there was enough mea culpa from Jake.
Definitely.
So we'll see, you know.
And obviously that's going to be one of the real hotspots that we're all looking for, Liberty and Jake, the sort of exes. All eyes are going to be on TV tonight.
Yes.
When they both walk into the villa and see their ex. Liberty, when I spoke to her, I think she knows he's going to be there.
Totally.
And she's definitely had a little pep talk with herself. She's ready. Jake, same thing with me, was just laughing it off. And I don't know, same thing. Gave me the ick, to borrow a phrase.
Yeah, I think him and Mitch have that similarity, don't they? There's just something about them that's a little bit off. But I'm just worried they're both quite charming people. And when you're in that bubble of Love Island, perhaps it kind of all goes out the window and you completely forget. So I am concerned that Liberty might have a little bit of a setback, maybe fall into the sort of her old ways.
I am a little bit concerned about that, but I think the fact that she's got Kaz in there with her, who's her best mate, you know, I think if she does have any kind of lapse in judgment, I think Kaz will be there to be like, come on, girl, you know, fix up. We can't go there again. I think, you know, and I think Liberty's changed a lot. I think she's really matured a lot since she was last in the villa, and I think I can't see her going back there. I think she seems to have accepted, you know, the first time around she was kind of quite loved up, and then I don't think Love Island Games quite went her way. Obviously we've not seen that on air in this country yet, but she was sort of in a friendship couple for most of the time she was on there. So I think she's kind of like, she's had the highs and lows of both experiences on Love Island, and I think, you know, she's going in there and she's pretty clued up. So my hope is that she will give Jake a wide berth.
Do we know anything about how the format will be tonight in comparison to previous series? You know, do we know that they're going to do this sort of line-up and choosing each other? How is it going to work?
Yeah, so we have to be careful about what we reveal, because ITV obviously are very keen that we don't spoil the fun for everybody. But we do know, obviously, that Maya opened the viewer vote. So the public have been in charge of who is coupling up with who. So we will find out tonight if the public has been evil. And let's face use it.
We kind of want them to be a little bit, don't we, right?
Yeah. So
Public.
we can reveal that one of our villa moles has told us that it kicks off. There's some people who are happy and there's some people who aren't as happy.
Okay.
So there is one storyline which is a bit of a hangover from the Love Island games, which was Toby and Loyal Georgia.
Yes.
So they connected during the Love Island games, and when I spoke to them both on the way in, it felt a bit like they were like, right, round 2, let's pick up where we left off. And I don't think that happened. Based on what we know so far.
Okay.
So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, there was definitely unfinished business, wasn't there, between them?
100%. So I think that everyone's thinking about Liberty and Jake and what's going to happen there. But let's not forget there are other little pockets in there as well. So for example, Hannah Elizabeth and Louie, they were the same series as well. So she will know of everything that went on with him, and of course Callie. So I think let's not forget the other flashpoints that there'll be.
Yeah, that's one that I'm actually worried about. If Louie is set up with Georgia Steele, because she's best friends with his ex Callie, who he shares a daughter with. So there's going to be, a lot of history there. She's been there through it all because they had quite a difficult relationship, difficult breakup in the end. So how is that going to play out? How are we going to have them put together, and they've got to? I mean, how awkward is that? You getting set up with your best friend's ex? Like, that's just weird. So how do they go about kind of manipulating that?
And I think it's going to be interesting how the show's going to kind of portray that, because obviously, as super fans, we know this kind of history between them all, but some viewers won't be aware of some of those off-camera antics of relationships that have happened since the show. So there's a lot of backstory. And I think a lot of them kind of hinted as well, like Demi Jones hinted that there'd been some secret snogs and DM slides that she'd had with Islanders that the public don't know about. So I think there's an awful...
I need to know, I can't
She
wait.
wouldn't give us names. We did our very best journalistic needling of her, but I think they've been sworn to secrecy. I think the producers want these revelations to come out on screen. Yeah. So they've been very much told in their kind of pre-Villa interviews that they won't be giving away who they've hooked up with off camera, because that drama has to play out.
Yeah, I get the feeling they will have come up with some games to tease this kind of info out on camera. Another thing we can reveal though about tonight's episode is they're really keen to try and get things off on the love footing rather than hate. So Maya will open the show with a look through the Love Island memory book. So there's going to be this really lovely sequence which is going to look at all of the loving couples of Love Island. So there's Molly and Tommy, there's the Olivia and Alex Bowen, all sorts of the loved up ones, right through to, for example, India and Dami, and then more recent examples. And Maya's going to sit there and she's going to flick through, and there's also some pictures of herself in there, which I love.
A bit of self-love.
A bit of self-love, of course. So I think that's really nice. Let's not forget that as well as drama, Love Island has also spawned real-life babies as well as love.
Marriages,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably been quite difficult for the producers with this, because there were so many people that they really wanted for All Stars that, unfortunately for the producers, not unfortunately for the Islanders, they are happily I think he said we'd have Olivia Atwood back in a heartbeat, but she's obviously recently happily married.
How selfish of her, because she would have been brilliant in there.
Yeah.
But I think hopefully this series is a success, and they'll have Love Islanders' lives change all the time, don't they? So who knows who will be single next time they do All Stars.
Although, I mean, there is the possibility of it really working this time round, because if you think about it, when in previous series they've gone in as complete novices to this whole reality TV game and fame, and they come out of that, and sometimes it does go to their heads. I'm talking about Mitch, like a Mitch, and or they become a little bit overwhelmed. I'm thinking maybe Liam Reardon, he won with Millie, and he was just it was a local builder in Wales, then sort of transported into winning a show like that, and he found it. He's opened up about it to us in previous interviews, saying how difficult it was. They broke up and they're now back together. This time around with these people, they were all kind of, this is who they are. We know who they are. They know who they are. They know what they're like with fame. They know what they're like with money. So it means that if they connect with someone, it might be the real deal.
Yeah.
Is that fair to say?
I think so.
I'm trying not to be cynical. I'm trying to be like, yes, this is going to be another time for people to properly find love.
I did say to them as well, you're all professionals at this. very much the chance that you could be chatting to a lad or a girl who's just producing a storyline. She knows that you're a good storyline, or he does. How will you know if they're faking it or feeling it?
Yeah.
And they all said, no, we don't need to do this. It's because we actually want to find love. I wasn't too sure about that.
I mean, I think some of them, like, I was talking to Chris Taylor, and he said that, you know, I'm not here to do this for the money, because I think I kind of upset him a little bit, because I said to him, you're one of the most successful Love Islanders ever on social media. You know, your videos are incredible. Like, you must be minted, aren't you a millionaire? And I think he was like, wasn't expected to be asking that question. So sorry, Chris Taylor, for that. But, you know, he kind of admitted, like, I don't need to, he's just been in the Barbie movie, obviously. I think he feels like he kind of owes ITV one back. You know, it was a big launching pad for him. So I don't think some of them necessarily need to be there for the fame as much, but I think there'll be others that have maybe fallen off the radar a bit in recent years that are perhaps, you know, wanting a bit of a launching pad.
Chris is actually a good example of when you've already been friends and then you've ended up together, because obviously he ended up dating Maura Higgins, and they were in the same series, weren't they? But they dated other people. Romantic. There was nothing there. They were just best friends. They ended up, okay, it didn't work out, but it was still like they had a nice little relationship for a while. So perhaps he's looking at people in there who are friends, and he knows it can be a success to transition.
I've got a little feeling on this one.
Okay.
So I know we talked about this last time, that we thought that him and Georgia Harrison might be a good match. Well, when we spoke to Georgia, and also when we spoke to Chris, I obviously had a little pet project here, got my Cilla Black on, and Georgia told all about how they bump into each other in Chigwell.
Starbucks, wasn't it?
Costa.
Oh, was it Costa? Sorry.
All the biggies.
Other coffee chains are available.
Yeah, of course. I mean, obviously, I was hoping for some sort of sheesh Chigwell encounter. But they, and for me, I'm like, you wouldn't have to commute.
No.
You can why has this not happened already?
That's such an easy romance. You don't have to think about the distance.
Yeah.
That
oh my gosh.
Killed many a Love Island relationship, hasn't it? The distance.
Yeah.
So.
If I was a betting woman, which I am, I would definitely be betting on Chris and Georgia, I think
that's a really, really good.
What about you?
Yeah, I get the vibe from them. I think they're both kind of, she specifically mentioned him and mentioned that they bumped into each other. And then I kind of said to him, don't you and Georgia bump into each other and you live in Chigwell? And he was a bit like, oh, you're stalking me. And I was like, well, no. A little birdie tells me maybe you bump into each other in the coffee queue. So
it's because he knew you were onto him.
Yeah. I mean, I wonder if is there more? Has something happened between them already? Will that come out on camera? I don't know. They were all quite evasive about some of their dealings with each other in the past, weren't they?
And then we've got to look forward to them going into the beach hut. What's it called? Beach hut?
Yeah,
beach diary.
The beach hut. Yeah.
Beach hut / diary room / confessional.
Yeah, that's the thing. I always end up going to sort of Big Brother territory of saying evicted and all of that. But yeah, going into that, and it'll be really. I think it'll be fascinating to see how if they have a persona that's there that they can kind of perform. They go into the beach hut and that's their safe place, and they sort of rehearsed everything, and to see the different sides of it. Could there be someone who we loved in a previous series, but they go into this and maybe a bit unstuck, and perhaps the public opinion turns on them? Are there any sort of suggestions?
That's always
for that?
the risk, isn't it? I mean, it's kind of scary to go back and do something again, because if you've been loved the first time, sometimes the only way, you know, we've seen it in reality shows in the past, haven't we? Like Nadia Almada, I loved her in the first Big Brother, and then she kind of went back for the ultimate Big Brother and didn't come across as well. Obviously, Jade Goody, famously.
Because they become a bit of a caricature of themselves. They know what the public wants, and so they, you know, would Georgia still, will she start doing the loyal babe?
She's claimed she won't.
Ironically,
she says she's sick of it, hasn't she?
You know, it's things like that. Are they bringing something in because they know that the audience like it, and are they kind of forcing?
I think, there is always that fear that they might start to feel like they have to give the audience what they want or what they think they want, and you just hope they're kind of smart enough to just be authentic, because I think the public smell any kind of when people try too hard on this show.
There's just so much at play, guys. It's exciting.
Okay, well, we're going to be back tomorrow, and we're going to be looking at the launch episode and all of the pairings. We're going to delve a bit more deep into who's with who, possible predictions. I'm very excited about the whole series. I think this is going to be one of the best of Love Island.
It should be. It should be the best of the
best. The best of the best.
Yeah.
I mean, it says that on the tagline, so...
I'm here for it.
It feels like Christmas Eve if Christmas is about naked people.
Oh, actually, I did want to bring this up. Ian Sterling, he was on Breakfast Show today.
Yeah.
And he was talking about Hannah being 33 and how, it's still it'll be difficult for her to get into a bikini in front of 25-year-olds and flirt with them. And I was outraged at that. Can you believe it?
God,
especially given his wife, Laura Whitmore, one of her little pet projects and, passion things that she talks about is women and age and image and stuff. Ian Sterling.
This is a bit of an older, and it's not an older lineup, but, Chris Taylor's also 33. I mean, I know there's not the same pressure on men, of course, but I think this, we've not got any 19-year-olds in this mix, which actually I think is a really good thing. I mean, apart from Gemma Owen, who was quite mature for her age and kind of held her own, I think sometimes when they put people in too young, like Amber Wise, I don't think it quite works. No. So for me, the kind of fact that most of them are kind of like 26, 27, heading towards 30 is positive thing.
Yeah.
And it's not that big an age gap, is it, where they can actually, there's going to be a lot of common ground between them.
Let's be real, Hannah Elizabeth looks amazing. She's had everything done. She admits it, so there's nobody that needs... Hannah Elizabeth does not need to worry about what she looks like in a bikini, does she?
Guessing Hannah, 33? You can't... Are you allowed to mention people's age?
33 is really young.
33 is quite young, but it's not when you're in a bikini trying to chat to a 25-year-old about what they do for a living.
Ian Sterling, have you looked at a picture of Hannah Elizabeth?
Yeah.
Jesus.
I know. She's going to walk in there and dazzle everyone, I think.
Yeah. Well, here's to that.
Yes, I know, exactly. Sorry, I just had to get it off my chest because I was fuming about it.
Well, quite. Well, Ian Sterling, come on the podcast and talk to us about this because you've got two angry women.
2 angry women and an angry gay.
Yeah. Well, we'll be back every day, every weekday, digging into all the Love Island action from the night before, looking forward to that night's episode and sharing with you all the gossip from Love Island HQ and beyond.
Yeah. See you next time.
Thanks for having me. Thanks, girls.